Hey guys, it's Oddisode time. I hope you guys are enjoying these extra episodes that we're trying to get up for you. We've got some really cool friends and we wanted to tell you more about them. So sit back, chillax, and enjoy this new Oddisode. Okay, guys, welcome to the latest Oddisode. We have a very special guest that you guys hear me talk about all the time. Well, I don't talk about him, I talk about his amazing talent and his artwork. Everybody say hello to Billy Ludwig from 13th Floor.
Hello from the quarantine.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, you have some that is actually very fitting for our lifestyle right now. I don't usually talk a whole lot about
Yeah,
what's going on in our world right now because of trying to make this a happy place, but I am going to touch on
sure.
your artwork that has all the face masks in
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
it.
Yeah, probably my vaudeville Phantom series where they lack a nose and mouth is probably the creature to be right now in our current situation. And as you know, I've been working on a backstory for them, and I would say late last year I really got into it with them and started really developing who they are and what they're about. And I hope sooner than later I can present that to the world because that's a very important series to me.
Your art is just inspiring, and I think
Thank you.
I would love to get inside your head at one point and figure out what made you decide to do the things that you do. First and foremost, those are people who don't know what 13th Floor is. Go ahead and give them your website address, Billy.
13th floor is 13thfloor.us, and 13th is spelled out. 13th floor's got a strange history. It started out as a like a local art gallery, and I had a lot of artists involved. And eventually, once I got on the road doing horror conventions and comic cons and all that, it just transformed into more of just my artwork slash clothing line. Not only is my digital art on there, but my mixed media and fine art and clothing, and basically everything on there though is stuff that I've created or designed in one way or another.
And I own just about every category there. I have one of your mixed media pieces sitting right behind me. I
You
have one
do.
of your, I do. I
That's
have a
great.
print or two print on my shelf on the other side behind me, one of your Ouija board prints, and I owned the clothes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You have one of the Maniac sweatshirts, don't you?
I do.
From what That's one of my favorite things that I release with the big cut neck. Yeah. I love those. I gotta do more of those.
Yes, I'm a sucker for the merch, man. Sucker for the merch. But so when I first met you, I think the thing that I remember the most about your artwork had Norman Reedus on it. Am I right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Or am I thinking of somebody else? Because if I am, I'm cutting this out. Okay.
No, you're totally right. That came about basically. Well, Sean Clark and I are friends. His Comic Con agent, appearance agent, and they were doing that. They wanted to come up with merch for Norman, and I had some random ideas, and I was like, I've got some ideas. I'm just gonna do them. If you guys want to use them, cool. If not, whatever. So I did that Redis Ramones one
Yes.
where he was every member of the Ramones, and instead of Ramones, it said Redis, and that one was a big hit. And then we were all at dinner after one of the shows one night in Chicago, and Norman had the idea for me to do the one as him as all the members of Kiss. So
Yeah.
then I did that one, and then later on did the Motorhead one too that said Rita's Head. So
Nice.
that's how all those came about. Yeah, they were a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, and aside from Norman Reedus, you do some really cool, it's like World War II meets Star Wars stuff. So how did that pop into your head?
So Star Wars vs. World War II started a long time ago, but it came about. I was working on my Vaudeville Phantom series, and a lot of the imagery that I use in Vaudeville Phantoms is from the 40s. And at the same time, I was also working on my Mona Leia piece, which is Princess Leia's The Mona Lisa.
stunning.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of my favorites. So I was just kind of taking a break from both. I was just looking through, images from the 40s, and of course World War II stuff popped up. So it just kind of gave me the idea to try and dump like an AT-AT walker or something into one of the battle scenes, or just any World War II scene, and that's what I did, and created 3-on-3, and posted it just on my personal Facebook for friends, and everybody loved it, and they kept nagging me for a while to print it, and include it with some of my other stuff. I'm like, nah, I don't, I really don't want to do that. And eventually I was like, oh, forget, I'll just do it. So I did, and then it did well sales wise. So I went ahead and created a second, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then it turned into a series. And now I don't even know how many images there is now. I think 40 or more, something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. And then, I've done mixed media stuff with them, and it's really,
I own one of
it's
those
just
too.
crazy what it's turned into. That's great. That's good.
I just realized I have a third print of yours hanging in my office. So does that qualify me as some kind of fan discount?
It does. I think you have a discount code, don't you? Didn't I
I
give you
do.
one?
I
Like
totally
an
do.
exclusive
Yes.
discount code?
Yes,
Yeah, you
you did.
do.
Because
Okay.
you're the best.
Only the VIPs have those secret exclusive, yeah, discount codes. So,
Oh shoot. I have the one I'm talking about is like your EVP one. It's like a sound wave and then it's got the bloody handprint on it. That's
yeah,
how I delved into your paranormal, what I call paranormal series.
yeah, white noise. Sure. Yeah. That's a classic. I've had that one for a while. And it's different because it's more of a, I don't know, I put that in more of a design category, in comparison to a lot of the imagery stuff that I've done, photo manipulation, digital stuff that I've done.
We've talked about your art. Everybody definitely go check out 13th floor.us. But we know why you're here because told me you had a paranormal story and I want to hear any and or
Yeah.
all of them.
Okay. Well, there's quite a few, but I think that this one in particular branches off into other things, and it just really has to do with, I guess, my connection to the paranormal world and my family's connection to the paranormal world. Um, Not exactly sure where to start here, but we'll start with my house when I lived on North Main Street in North Canton, Ohio. Um, I think that's when everything really became apparent that there was something going on. It's one of those things. Everywhere I lived, from the house I grew up in to apartments, random places I lived, I'm like, damn, everywhere I live is haunted, you know? And it just came, maybe a friend said it to me, I don't know, but they were like, maybe it's you. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But eventually I realized, yeah, maybe it is me. I just moved into the split house, real old house. I don't know when it was built. Probably early 1900s. I don't know. And definitely pre-war. I lived upstairs. It was a great place, and I kept having people tell me that they kept seeing a black shadow in the hallway
Oh,
when we were in our living room. And my place was like Grand Central Station. Like there was people over all the time. You know, I was never seeing this. But throughout my time living there, I had always had pretty terrifying nightmares, and when I lived there, they were really starting to get bad. Like really, really bad. Like the next day, just I'm just wiped out because it was like these nightmares were just ripping the life out of me. Like all night I'm asleep, but I'm battling, and fighting.
right. Like you were living
Yeah.
them.
So I'd wake up the next day and just be trashed, just totally just beat up. So, and it got to the point too where there was, my dog Sierra lived with me, and there was nights that she was just running around like crazy, barking at stuff. We'd have to leave the house, go on a car ride for a little bit, and then come back home and
Oh,
try again, to get some sleep. And there was a night that I had one of these, nightmares. I basically experienced sleep paralysis, and we can all debunk this one way or another, but I woke up and could not move. I could see, but could not move at all. And I couldn't hear anything, but my dog was next to the bed and she was barking and barking and barking. Couldn't hear her,
Oh,
and like
shit.
gritting her teeth at me, which she would never do, absolutely never do. Gritting her teeth at me, growling. Not that I could hear it. All I could hear in my ears was like a combination between something of like screaming, like an ominous like screaming almost, mixed with like a train grinding on the tracks. It was just so loud, and that's all I could hear.
Awful.
Yeah, it was terrible. And finally I snapped out of it and like just gradually came out of it. And the more I came out of it, the calmer my dog Sierra got. And it was just terrible. So eventually I was able to get back to sleep. Went to work the next day. I worked in like a call center. Get off the elevator, and I'm totally just like I said, I'm just trashed. Like
Yeah.
I was totally out of it. So tired. And this woman I worked with, and we weren't close by any means,
Mhm.
and she comes running up to me and she says, are you okay? I go, yeah, Brenda, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, there's something at your house, isn't there? I go,
What?
what do you mean there's something at my house? And she's like, yeah, she's like, it's like there's something at your house, like a black shadow. And I'm like, yeah, I've been told this. I'm like, why? She's like, because I see it standing behind you.
No. No, 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 no.
And, and this is why I was at work. So, it obviously took me back quite a bit. And we sat down and talked, and here she's clairvoyant. And the amount of clairvoyants who have approached me throughout my life had, got greater. I think maybe even after that, for sure. Just coming up, talking to me, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, it just bizarre, telling me things that there's no way the stranger would know.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I was also able to, sense if someone else in the room was connected in that way. I'm
Wait,
still
wait, wait,
able to
wait.
do that to some degree.
So you can you know when somebody has like psychic or spirit medium type abilities before they even tell you.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes. I think that, as I got older, I started to cut it off. Like with 13th floor, when I had it as a gallery, I would host pretty big events, and I hosted a Halloween event for 10 years called Gravediggers Ball. And I would have, in the later years, sometimes I would have fire breathers and bands and all this stuff. And I'd have a psychic there. And with the first time I had a psychic there, she walked up to me, and I was able to cut it off. Like I could feel it, like I could cut it off. Because I could tell as soon as I was meeting her, she was trying to read, and I just cut it off. And since then, I feel like I've cut it off, and I've been told as well that I need to not cut it off and, you know, indulge in it more so and understand it more. It's something I want to do, but I've been a little busy.
Well,
Been on the road
yeah,
a lot. But
I get that.
it's, and at the same time, I feel that you just don't know what you might invite. I've had some pretty, the Black Shadow thing. It was definitely, you know, I feel like a little bit of a sinister situation. And it was backtracking just a little bit before that.
Mhm.
My sister had graduated high school, and we went, me and my mom and dad and my grandfather on the Ludwig side went to, and that's my dad's dad. We went to dinner afterwards, and this is when I had first moved into that apartment I had mentioned, and we were sitting at Taggart's, which is a real, I guess, locally famous little restaurant with ice cream and real classic. They were asking me about the new apartment. How is it? And I said, well, I'm like, my buddy Jim was filming in there the other night, and we thought we caught like a ghost. on the camera. I'm like, just
What?
as you're panning real quick, you can just kind of see a figure. Yeah, I mean it just looked like a young boy almost or something. And my dad and my grandpa just kind of stopped, looked at each other, and my dad's like, if you go looking for that stuff, you're gonna find it. And I'm like, oh, it's fine, whatever. And that's when my grandfather started talking about my great grandmother, who I'd never met. And he tells me, he's like, and I never knew any of this. And I
Mhm.
was in my mid 20s at this time. So he tells me that my great grandmother was a witch, and as he was growing up, she would do spells and things around the house for protection, and he's like, and this is stuff that she had done even back when.
Witches are the best.
Yeah, well, he's like, this is stuff that she would do in the old country, and ended up doing it, over here. And I was like, well, what, the old country, what's that? And he's like, Transylvania. I was like, what? I was like, my great grandmother's a witch from Transylvania. And he's like, yeah.
Get the fuck out. You're the coolest person I've ever met in my life.
Well, that's why, on the 13th floor logo, where, in the middle, the skull and bones, and I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it says Ultra Saloon, I think
Yeah.
is how you pronounce it. And the translation references Transylvania.
Oh, I
So
love
that's
that.
that's why that's on the logo. But, they told me that, and I was just kind of like, I mean, I was flabbergasted, and that's kind of all they talked about. My dad was definitely acting funny about the whole conversation,
Yeah.
and it was just strange. So after, I was at work, I had the Brenda tell me about the black shadow thing. I called my mom on my lunch break and I told her about it. I'm like, "Mom, I'm freaking out. This is crazy." And she's like,
Of course.
"Well, we should probably talk to you." And I was like, "Should we?" Like, "Should we probably talk to me?" I'm like, about what?" And she's like, "Well, you know, your dad's always felt that something's been following him, and your grandfather's thought the same thing." And she goes, "I don't get into any of it." She goes, "But I'll tell you," she goes, "there was a time we were at the grocery
You
store."
should see the look on my face right now. My jaw just dropped. Go ahead. Sorry.
So she said there was a time that they were at the grocery store, and my mom was following my dad with a grocery cart, and as he was walking, stuff was just flying off the shelf behind him.
What?
Yeah, she's like, it was just crazy, and I've always tried to just pass it off as like something else was happening. Um, she's like, but then there was a time that she goes, all you guys were gone from the house, and I was in the kitchen doing something. I was the only one home. She said, and all of a sudden, all the pots and pans and everything in the cupboards just started banging around, and the cabinets were shaking. And she goes, there wasn't an earthquake or anything. She goes, it was terrifying, so I just left the house. And I mean, the house I grew up in was,
Holy shit.
yeah, it was scary. And I told her, I said, well, why didn't you guys tell me any of this as a kid? I always had things happen as a kid. And she's like, we didn't want to scare you. And I'm like, there was always a situation when I was a kid, and my room was at the end of the hallway. And I would tell them, I'm like, I sense at night someone walk up the steps and walk down the hallway and stand in front of my door, and then they just disappear. They're like, what? How do you
Yeah.
hear them walk up the steps? I said, no, no, I don't hear them. Like, I don't hear them. I feel them walk up the steps and down the hall and stand in front of my door. I don't hear anything. And they're like, oh, you watch too much Scooby Doo. And I'm like, and that was it.
What an imagination you have.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm like, maybe, I don't know, but it was always a thing when I was a kid. I finally, my dad opened up to me, and my uncle experiences these things. My dad, my grandfather, and the clairvoyant had talked to me, and she had said something along the lines that it might have to do with my great grandmother, that this black shadow that was following me was perhaps a rival witch. Yeah, she brought it. I mean, she like had me ask my dad things that she would not have known. Yeah, it was really bizarre. And, that situation eventually got alleviated based off of some rituals I had to do. And
Awesome.
yeah, elements I had in my home that I had to get rid of and smash, and just really opened me up into another world, to be honest, and I started to understand it more as I got older. I mean, I'll be 44 next month. Um, as long as,
Well, happy early birthday.
yeah, thank you. As long as the coronavirus doesn't get me, I'll make it to 44. But
Wash your damn hands.
oh, I do. I'm not even leaving the house at this point. I've got
Same.
deliveries here, and I'm not even, no, not even leaving the house. Maybe to go to my warehouse, but that's about it. So yeah, I mean, that situation really for me has branched into so many different things that I understand. And, I've had girlfriends or friends that know this about me, and they're like, whatever. And then they stay the night or whatever the situation is. Hey, yeah, I saw like a black shadow, and the one black shadow I think is gone. I believe these are different entities. And the first storefront 13th floor there's a very twisted history with that building and the building across the street. And
I want to go to there.
it's well, I'm not there anymore, but
Ugh.
I'm definitely going to talk about it. I'm slowly working on this art piece, which is going to be a mixed media piece, and I'll probably talk about it in my book that's coming out this summer, which is really a coffee table book and a collection of my artwork, but I might mention it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. But I am working on this piece that is from the building that was across the street. And do you know what a fire door is? Like one of those big metal doors?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, long story short, I rescued one of those doors from the building across the street. And I was talking to my friend Brian, who heads up the Maslin Paranormal Group, which is where 13th Floor originated. We did some research and found out that the basement where I pulled that door out of back in the early 1900s was a funeral home, and they built coffins
snap.
there. So, the building was a lot of different things, but by all means, that's definitely the coolest. And we have a photo of like the old horse and buggy hearse that they used, which is just gorgeous. And but there's definitely a lot of creepy history between my building and theirs, and battles on the street, fights and murders, and religious groups and shit. There's just craziness. But when I was in that,
You had me at funeral homes and murder.
and I never knew about the funeral home until earlier this year, and I lived in that building and started the business in that building, and was there recorded there, everything, for 10 years at least. So
Wow.
it's just crazy not knowing that part of the history. Yeah.
Well, cool. I don't want to keep you too long. It sounds like I might have another opportunity to have you on since you have a book coming out. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
totally.
we can talk more then. But I really, truly appreciate you doing this for me. I miss your fucking face.
I know.
But tell everybody where they can find you, not just your website, but the socials and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so again, the website is 13thfloor.us. 13th is spelled out. And then on Instagram, you can find me personally at Billy Ludwig. And 13th Floor, again, is at 13th Floor. Those are really the two best places to find me. I'm on Facebook as well. 13th Floor is just 13th Floor. And my handle is Billy Ludwig Official on there. And then I am on Twitter, but Twitter just does nothing for me.
Twitter's so negative right now. It really is.
Instagram's the best place to find me.
Well, not to mention you're an artist, so of course Instagram's going to be where to find you, of course. Well, thank you so much, Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and if you're ever able to get back into those buildings, let a bitch know. I'll meet you up there with my equipment.
We'll see what we can do. That would be awesome.
Oddity Files is an independent production. Intro music created by DJ Jimmy. Wah, wah. 2020 artwork created by me, Kitsy Duncan. The opinions expressed in this podcast are ours, and ours alone. Well, maybe yours too. If you like the show and would like to support us, visit oddityfiles.com and click on support, or go to patreon.com/oddityfiles. Every little bit helps with both the podcast and the TV show. You can also support us by watching Oddity Files on Amazon Prime. It's free to Prime members and dirt cheap to those who aren't. You can find us on all the social media sites at Oddity Files. Keep spreading the word by sharing, retweeting, and reposting. Join our Oddity Files Facebook group by searching Oddity Files Fan Group and click join. We'll approve you as soon as we can. All weirdos are welcome. Not into that social media stuff? Tell your coworkers, family, even the weird guy who just won't stop talking to you in line for coffee. Oh, and Grandma. Your grandma will love us. We appreciate each and every one of you, and if it weren't for you, we have no idea what we would do with our lives. If you have a story you'd like to submit, send it on in at oddityfilescrew@gmail.com. Also, send in story ideas, silly, weird memes, or just positive vibes to oddityfilescrew@gmail.com. You can also call in and leave that in a voicemail. Call us at 317-300-6699. To contact us about an appearance, reach out at kitsy@oddityfiles.com. When you have a sec, rate, review, and subscribe. We know it doesn't sound like much, but it really helps us get up there on the podcasting charts. And remember, kids, weird is the new cool. Ghost on. Why are you still here? Go on. Get out of here. Turn it off. It's done. Really. I swear. Go. Get. Serious. I'm out of here.